Bali's insane plan to build a $20 billion railway system all around the island. This sounds super interesting. We will check it out in this video. Make sure that you push the like button, subscribe our channel, and we dive in. Yes, and this is the video I talked about. Bali's insane plan to build a 20 billion subway from mega builds with over 1.3 million followers. And in the last 5 days already nearly 100,000 views. And we will check it out, and for sure I give you my comments to this. Let's see what is this for a huge plan in Bali. But the insiders who join our webinar, they already know, because also on our webinars, with every 4 weeks live here on this YouTube channel, they will get even more insights about investment in Bali, about tokenization, and for sure also other useful informations.
From beautiful white sand beaches to its rich and vibrant culture, Bali is one of the most famous tourist destinations in the world. But with millions and millions of people visiting the island each and every year, its existing infrastructure is struggling to keep up with demand. Traffic has become a daily headache with congested roads and citywide gridlock.
Yes, true, for sure. So many tourists, millions of tourists, and it doesn't get less, yeah? Every year there's new tourism records, and for sure the infrastructure, especially in areas like Canggu and Seminyak, I mean, we will talk in other videos about this, yeah? 5 reasons why I don't invest in Canggu. The video is online on the channel, and then for sure it's an opportunity to improve the infrastructure, and I just can make a little bit a teaser, yeah? This huge project is not the only one. There's even more huge infrastructure project, but let's dive in about this railway system.
This is the Bali Urban Subway. It'll be a brand new infrastructure project that aims to efficiently connect some of the most highly touristed areas on the island, potentially solving the growing problems with traffic and congestion. But what do the locals have to say about it?
Simple to take care of this island, but it has been over the years, and it's getting worse. It is not getting better, you know.
And is it going to destroy Bali's identity? Hey.
And I think this is a really important point, because Bali is well known for the nature, for the rich culture, and this is definitely need to be protected. We don't need flying taxis here around like in Dubai or something. It's really important, if there's new projects in Bali, that they're going hand in hand with the environment, that they're sustainable, and that they improve of the island, and not that we're building a huge mega city like Hong Kong or whatever, whereas high towers. It's really important that Bali still keep the charm of this beautiful island.
I'm your host, Regis. Let's take a closer look. Most of you watching right now probably have a rough idea of what Bali is like. It consistently ranks as the most popular tourist destination in Indonesia and arguably the entire world, with millions of tourists visiting the island for its natural landscapes, Hindu temples, nightlife, and many different luxury hotels and resorts. The island destination is so famous, in fact, that sometimes people even confuse it for an entirely separate country of its own.
That's true. Also, often when people come to me, Bali, it's near Thailand somewhere. I say, no, it's a part of Indonesia. Or people think it's their own country, yeah? Yeah, that's interesting. Bali is really well known in the world. That's why, for sure, it's an amazing place. That's why I'm living here now more than 5 years already.
But it hasn't always been like this. The history of Bali and how it became the tourism hub that it is today is pretty long and complex. But for the sake of keeping everything concise, we're going to be oversimplifying a lot. Before all the tourists arrived, Bali was just a peaceful island within the Indonesian archipelago, with nothing much going for itself aside from a relatively small but productive agricultural sector. Things only started to take a turn around the 60s and 70s, following the rise of Indonesia's second president, Suharto, who was much more open.
But also before the Second World War already, I hear like Albert Einstein and many other famous persons, they already traveled long time ago to Bali. So Bali was already nearly 100 years ago. It was already for some people a place where they like to go and what like to learn about the culture, learn about spirituality, learn about the Hindu culture. But for sure, after the Second World War, there the country and the island much more developed. But we will continue watching.
To the Western world compared to his predecessor. Both the economy and foreign investment into the country was steadily on the rise during his rule. It was also around this time that the island's existing airport was upgraded to an international one. This enabled international flights from nearby countries such as China, India, Australia, and New Zealand, which up to this day still make up most of the international tourist arrivals on the island. All this global traffic, of course, brought with it global attention, and most importantly, global investments, painting the island of Bali to the rest of the world as the quintessential tropical destination. With this budding tourism industry, the government continued to invest heavily in its growth and development through the
Definitely, that is an amazing part that the government supported, that the government is for the people and not against the people, like we see in economies like Germany, where I'm from, where the government don't take care about building more infrastructure. And they make it even more worse for the people. And here they really do it for the people, they really improve it, and that's really, really nice.
The 90s up until the 2000s with various infrastructure projects. It even got to the point where Balinese temples had to be demolished to make way for new hotels and resorts. The money was definitely coming into the island, but there were growing concerns that it came at the cost of the environment and Bali's own unique cultural heritage. Today, Bali remains one of the single most important tourism hubs in the entire world. International tourists continue to visit the island with as many as 4.7 million arrivals.
This is an interesting statistic, because here we just see in the year 2023 how it's more and more. And this was just after the pandemic, and now it's even more crazy. It's getting completely crazy sometimes in the high season, especially to the new year. Yeah, I don't recommend, I love Bali, but I don't recommend you to New Year coming to Bali, because it's just, everything is just blocked. It's completely crazy. Between Christmas and New Year, this is really the worst time to come to Bali because it's too full.
Just in the first 9 months of 2024. This is more than a 20% increase from the same time last year, which only saw 3.9 million tourist arrivals. Foreign countries also continue to invest heavily, which suggests that all these tourism figures will probably continue to increase over the next few years.
And that's for sure, it's a good reason to make investments in Bali. That's why we set up our company. That's why we're doing projects, and not in this tourism area. Like with our first project, the Zigara Seaside Resort, where we actually are. You can see it here. We're on Nusa Ceningan, the neighbor island of Bali. And this is really a really beautiful escape, where even so many people from Bali who stay in Bali come often here and say, oh, it's so much more nice. And I even like this much more than Bali. And our next project in the north, in Lovina, Retreat and Wellness Center, is even more quite interesting. And there we still open for investment. But for this, better check out our webinars.
But despite all the wealth and prosperity that tourism has brought, some unintended consequences are now starting to emerge. One of the most pressing issues that's now made it into the spotlight is the problem of over-tourism. Bali's existing infrastructure just wasn't built for the number of people that are now visiting on a yearly basis. This has led to severe traffic congestion, especially in the most popular areas such as Kuta, Seminyak, Canggu, and Nusa Dua, which are all located within the densely populated Denpasar metropolitan area. Narrow roads and an outdated public transportation system that consists mainly of just buses, taxis, and minibuses are now struggling to accommodate the growing crowds. In fact, public transportation is so inefficient and almost non-existent that it's just easier and more convenient to use ride-hailing apps like Grab or Gojek to get around the island. So because of this, there have been various efforts in the past to reduce this severe traffic congestion. One good example of this is the 8-kilometer Bali Mandara toll road, which connects the airport and downtown Denpasar to Nusa Dua in the south. Before this road's construction, there was only a single 4-lane highway that connected the opposite sides of the island from the airport.
Yeah, that's true, and especially this one way, the extension of the Sunset Road, and I would say this Mandara Toll Road, it's really helped. When you come from the airport and you want to go to Sanur, you can pass it much faster. And also, for example, when I come from Canggu and I drive there around and I want to go to the Mulia for brunch, I think there's also a video on our channel online. Check it out. Mulia brunch, one of the best brunch in Bali. I was there with Vayu, it was super amazing. Then even this is much faster because you can just pass this way and you directly in Nusa Dua at the luxury hotels, also the Kempinski's there, Hilton, and many other. And that's why I also say, for example, if you stay in Ceningan, yeah, and you want to go to Uluwatu, you just go to Sanur with the boat, and then you can take this road and you fastly in Nusa Dua and Uluwatu going to the beach clubs. So that's why for me personally, if you search for building a villa for living, and you also have a family, I would recommend you the area of Sanur, because from Sanur you everywhere fast. You can go to the north fast, you can go to the south fast. It's a really strategic, great location.
But even with this new impressive bridge, traffic in Bali largely remained the same, which is why the government soon announced a groundbreaking new infrastructure project that they hope will finally fix this problem once and for all. This is the Bali Urban Subway. It'll be a 60-kilometer underground rapid transit system with 4 different lines that'll serve the Denpasar metropolitan area.
And this is just the first stage. I know, and everyone who was in the webinar knows, that there will be a railway system all around Bali, but for sure, this is the first part, this is the first construction phase, and this is also what makes the most sense, because in this area is the most traffic.
The first 2 are currently under construction, while the remaining ones are still in the planning stage. So there aren't any guarantees just yet if they're even going to be built in the first place. Stop us if you've heard that one before. Line 1 of the project will run for a total of 16 kilometers from the Ngurah Rai International Airport up to Cemagi in the northwest. This line will be passing through some of the most well-known beaches along Bali's western coast, which is famous for its nightlife and entertainment. Line 2, on the other hand, will also start from the airport and continue southeast up until Nusa Dua over a total length of 13.5 kilometers. This area is known for its 5-star hotels, luxury resorts.
This is not the area of Nusa Dua, this is exactly on the opposite, so he showed the wrong location.
Beautiful beaches and cliffs, and even one of the best clubs in the world.
Yeah, also Savaya is down here. Savaya is down here, and this is what he said was Bingin Beach. Bingin Beach is here around. It's not there where you show right now, so you don't have done your research so well. This was wrong.
Line 3 will run from Kuta Central Park here to Sanur, while Line 4 will start from Renan up until Ubud to the north. The first 2 lines began construction back in September 2024 with a traditional Ngurah ceremony, which was attended by the main governor of Bali, along with the contractors for the project. Phase 1 is expected to be completed by 2028, while the second one will be done sometime later in 2031. In total, the entire subway system is expected to cost as much as $20 billion, not a single cent of which.
Interesting, this means just 3 years from now, and then it's already finished in the most tourism area. I'm excited how this will be. I personally don't see any construction site right now, but that's okay. When they make it underground, then you can see it. But also at the airport, I don't see that the construction really start right now. What do you guys think about this? For the people who live already in Bali, do you have any updates about this? Do you have already seen it? And overall, what do you say about this project? You think it's a great improvement of Bali, or you see this critical? Let me know your opinion here in the comments.
Which will be coming from the Indonesian government. The Bali subway will be entirely funded by private investors, with the main company behind the finances being from Indonesia. In addition to them, construction will be carried out by 2 other Indonesian firms, and more interestingly, a Chinese state-owned company.
Yeah, Chinese company invests hugely in Bali. Also the new airport in the north, $3.2 billion invested in the airport in the north. But for this, we also have another video online on this channel. If you're interested in this other huge infrastructure in Bali, the new Bali airport, then check out our other video where I was talking about this.
Completed, the system will feature a double-track system going in opposite directions. The trains themselves will have 6 carriages, each having a capacity of 40 passengers. Trains will arrive every 10 minutes, and the system will continuously run 24 hours per day. Ticket prices aren't final yet, but tourists can expect to pay somewhere between $35 and $40 for a weekly pass. Bali residents, on the other hand, may be eligible for free train rides.
That's nice. That's really nice concept, and especially mostly when you see who makes the traffic. It's not the tourists, it's the people who are going to work. Mostly Balinese people who have to go to their work, and that's why it's making so busy. So that's really great that it will be for the residents, or even they said for Bali residents. So it will be even for me free. That's nice. That's great. So I think this is a great point. Amazing.
Construction began just recently, and the current progress is mainly focused on creating the stations themselves, as well as a main office building for the entire project in Kuta. The hardest part of the construction, which is digging the tunnels themselves, won't begin until at least April of 2025, when the 10 tunnel boring machines from one of the project's investors will arrive on site. Once
Okay, so in April, this means next month, or even this month when you're watching this video, they will really start with this. That's why I don't have seen this yet. Interesting, really interesting.
that happens, the tunnels will be dug 30 meters below the surface. This depth is double the recommended provisions regulated by Bali's laws. This is being done to make sure that there's plenty of room between the busy surface and the construction work that'll be happening underground. After all, most of these tunnels will be passing directly under some of the busiest and most densely populated areas of the island. But perhaps unsurprisingly, not everyone is happy about this new metro line. Most of the problems and criticisms mainly revolve around the fact that the project may be a little too ambitious given its scope and timeline. For starters, experts are concerned that there hasn't been a feasibility study conducted on the proposal. They worry that the start of construction may have been rushed, given that the project is being funded by private investors who would benefit from the subway being completed as quickly as possible. And speaking of funds, despite already having a main investor, the project hasn't yet fully secured all necessary funding in order to complete all 4 lines. But regardless of this, construction has already begun. Aside from that, there are also concerns that the new trade line wouldn't benefit the local populations as much as it would tourists and foreigners. The governor of Bali has repeatedly stated that the needs of the local communities must be considered in the subway's construction. According to him, Balinese workers should be given priority when it comes to
Definitely, for sure. This Balinese worker, this creates also a lot of jobs. It's a huge project. I mean, this 20 billion who comes in is yeah not just for the materials, also create a lot of work. In the end, it makes Bali to a better place, and it's also better for the environment, I would say, because then less scooters drive, and I think this train, they're electrical, so even it's better for the environment.
to jobs relating to the project's construction and development. These concerns at least somewhat relate back to the fact that China's heavily involved in this project as one of the main contractors that are going to be building the subway itself. In relation to that, there's also the problem of gentrification, where local Balinese populations are starting to feel very alienated from their own homeland. Locals are divided as to their opinions on the new subway. Some people see the potential benefits of it bringing in more tourists and therefore more money and opportunities into the island.
I think this is not the point. I think you don't need to do this to gain more tourists or to attract more tourists. Bali already attracts a lot of tourists, even maybe too much tourists sometimes, and there flows already a lot of money also from investment in. When you take a look at some areas, you just see some construction site. I think this is not a point where Bali need to make more marketing for tourists or for investors. I think Bali have already a lot of tourists and a lot of investors. I think this point is not that important.
While others believe that the project could very much destroy the vibe and the identity of the island itself.
So less traffic destroy the identity? I would say this heavy traffic destroys the identity. I would say if there's less traffic and we have an underground system, it will be better. Yeah, so I don't see that negative point what he mentioned there. But what is your opinion? Let me know in the comments.
At the end of the day, this is an infrastructure project that's being built because of tourists and for tourists. There's always going to be objections from people wanting to preserve the island's unique heritage. Finally, there's also the problem of building a huge infrastructure project like this one in a seismically active part of the world. The main concern for a subway system like this one would be a catastrophic collapse that could potentially trap people underground in the event of an earthquake. So, of course, earthquakes are already a given and a huge consideration when building anything on the island. The MRT in Jakarta, for example, is built to withstand as much as a magnitude 8 earthquake. There aren't any details for the Bali subway just yet.
For sure, you have to take care about this. I mean, you have to make sure that even there's a really hard earthquake or really heavy rains, that this underground station don't get flooded and don't get destroyed from this. But I would say the construction company who comes from China, it's not the first railway system in an area where sometimes earthquakes happen. I would say this should be also not a problem, or I think they take care about this, right? Hopefully.
Yet. But it's safe to assume that the project's developers already have these specific environmental concerns in their minds. So what do you think about the Bali urban subway? Do you think it'll finally be able to fix Bali's traffic problem, or will it destroy the identity of the island?
I don't would say that it's fix the traffic problems, but it's a good step. It's a good step to have another option, and it's definitely a good point for Bali. But let me know your opinions here in the comments, and thank you for watching the video. Subscribe our channel. We will see you soon in one of the next videos.